Welcome Idaho Dispatch viewers. We're out here at the Bundy Orchard with Lisa Bundy on this beautiful afternoon with the sun shining and the apple trees budding. We're here today to talk about a very important case that's going on between St. Luke's, Ammon Bundy, and the People's Rights Network. St. Luke's is asking for damages due to defamation and loss of business when Ammon and the People's Rights Network protested against St. Luke's holding baby Cyrus after he was taken by CPS. As we sit here in the orchard with Lisa Bundy, we have some questions for her today that we believe the people of Idaho will be interested in. So Lisa, thank you for joining us.
Yes.
And Lisa, why are people camping on your property?
Our friends have come to make sure we're safe. We had a little scary incident on Monday, and we just kind of let our close friends know what was going on, and we felt pretty unsafe. And so a bunch of them said, hey, I'm just gonna come and make sure you guys are okay. So I think that's mostly why they're here.
Okay,
just
so
to make sure we're okay.
Now, how has this affected your daily routine?
It has completely thrown everything off. But I feel like it's very important for me as the mother to be very consistent with my children. And so I'm trying to keep everything still consistent, keep us on schedule, bedtime schedules, getting our school done during the day. You know, my kids think that it's just a party, and I'm glad that they think it's that way and that they're not scared or have fear or anything. But it has completely put everything up into an uproar. Yeah.
So is it difficult having people here and not really being able to let down? Do you have any privacy?
They're pretty great about letting us have privacy, but there's still not 100% full privacy. And I guess that's okay if that's what means keeping us safe is. But no, there's not a whole lot of privacy, and a lot of our time is taken with them coming and, you know, wanting to talk about what's going on and what can I do for you, and, you know, all of that. Sometimes, you know, 11, 12 o'clock at night. But no, so not a whole lot of privacy, but that's not why they're here, I guess. So I just accept it.
So in addition to that, with a lack of privacy, are you resting well? Are you getting good sleep?
The first night I didn't get very good sleep, and I don't think Ammon did either. But then the more and more people that came, I slept really good the next night. And it's been mostly pretty good. I mean, we had, our son was doing a welding project and he burned his eyes with the welder, and so that was one of the days, and so we were up all night with him. That wasn't anybody that was here, but so we're getting okay sleep. I mean, I do feel a huge amount of peace knowing that if anything were to happen, there would be 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 10 witnesses as to what would happen, because I don't believe that the truth is getting out there.
Okay. Going back in time a little bit, we discussed this a little bit the other day. I was, inquiring. I was like, was it high school sweethearts? But can you tell the people of Idaho when you and Ammon met?
So we met in 2000, and I was at school. I went to SUU, which is in Cedar City, Utah. Okay. And he was already there. I didn't know him. I had decided to go there because my brother was there playing football, and he loved the college. And so I get there, and my brother sent me up with a bunch of roommates that I didn't know. One of them was his secretary, Ammon's secretary, because he had his own business at that point. Okay. And so I got to know Ammon through her. And we met shortly after in August when school started, and then September we were like kind of hanging out a little bit, and then it went from there.
How many years ago was that?
That was 23 years ago.
Okay. And so you and Ammon have been married for how many years?
21, 22 in July.
Okay. So still going back in time a little bit here, but a little bit forward from the time that you met. What was your life like before the Bundy Ranch conflict?
Our life was so wonderful. I think my biggest complaints was that my husband worked too much. And I guess if I had to take it back, I probably would not complain about that. You know, at least he was doing something worthy for our family, making ends meet. We had a wonderful life. We lived in Arizona, and we had a lot of babies at that time. We have 6 kids, and it was hard to be, I was home a lot because he was working a lot. But yeah, so that's kind of what it was like. It was pretty wonderful, actually.
I don't want to assume that I can tell from that answer, but the following question to that I have for you is, would you go back to that life if it was possible?
I've thought about that a lot. We wouldn't have been able to meet as many amazing people as we have if we hadn't been through the experiences that we've gone through so far. And I also think that because of those experiences, my faith in God has really soared. So maybe, I mean, I don't know. I guess if I had to take some of it, I would probably take 40% and keep the 60 if I had a chance to merge the two together.
Yeah. That is interesting. So I know this is a little gear shift here, but kind of to get into some of the meat of the current situation is, are you concerned with losing your husband to these conflicts with the government, either in terms of, you know, his freedom and his liberty or his life?
Yes, I am. Lavoy was was killed. Some have said that the feds and the state are setting Ammon up for the similar situation right now, currently. And of course, I'm scared to death. Every time, when he first got home from being incarcerated for 2 years innocently, I didn't want him to go anywhere. I was like, you're not going anywhere. You're not helping anybody. Our family needs you. And so we had kind of made a pact that we would just kind of focus on building our family. Because a lot happened in those 2 years, you know, and our kids really needed their father. And he agreed to that. And then things just kind of started happening one after another. And he can't not stand up for things that are unjust. And if that is a gift he then how can I not be supportive of that? So it's been hard, but I support him.
I have heard multiple times people make the statement, the quote, "I don't know how Lisa Bundy does it. I don't know how Lisa Bundy does it." I've heard that probably a dozen different times in some of these different situations. But moving on, you talked a little bit about your faith, and so can you tell us, you know, what role does your faith play in all of this?
So I think when everything happened in 2014, which was at the ranch, my faith was really rocked. And I was leading my days by fear, and I was scared and I was worried, and you know, my husband had been tased, and you know, there was certain things that were going on, and I was fearful, and I felt like my role was to stay home with the kids and make sure the kids are okay and they're safe and everything, and that was very comfortable, and that was good. And it was one day I just felt like I needed to be by my husband's side. So my friend says, I'll watch the kids for a couple of days while you go spend a couple of days with your husband. And to be in the middle of it, I felt this peace. I'll never forget driving up by the flagpoles and just feeling this amazing amount of peace. I wasn't expecting it. But at that point, I had just prayed to God that he would protect me so that I could come back to my children. And he did. And so I think in those situations, and then also what happened in 2016, you have a decision to make. You can either fall on your fear and go down that path and be a victim and all of that, or you can be faithful and you can trust God. And faith without works is dead. And so I've just kind of given it to God and said, okay, now what's my role? And that was be the rock for your family, for your children, the consistency that they need, and support your husband. And I'll never forget when I got that answer, and I can never deny it. So I just keep praying for that, and that's what I keep feeling is what I'm supposed to do.
Okay. The media often reports about your husband. How does this affect you?
In the beginning, I listened and I watched, and I was so angry because they portray him someone completely different than what he is. And you would know that if you listen to the media and then you actually met him, you would know the differences. Many people, especially on the campaign trail, had told me that. So it makes me irate. But I know that those that choose to follow Satan's agenda and let Satan rage in their hearts are awful and wicked like that. That's what they do. That's what gets money. That's what buys stories. It's all that. That's not what Heavenly Father wants. It's not peaceful. It's not truthful. And so I don't really watch a whole lot of media anymore. And if things are sent to me, I mostly disregard them because I know who he is, you know, and yeah, we've been through a lot and our life has changed. It's been up and down, but at the end of the day, he's just helping because he sees something unjust, and we all need help sometimes.
How do these media reports affect your children?
So that's what I worried about most. And I worried about, at the time, my kids were all in public school, and I had kids in each school in this area. So I had elementary, middle school, and high school. And I was really, really, really worried about that. I mean, I cried and lost sleep, and but I know that, sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
I know, I wonder why God led us here sometimes, but it was in that moment that I knew that we were in a community that wasn't going to allow that. And they had teachers and administrators and secretaries and friends and advisors that didn't follow the lies. You know, they knew my children. They had met me and my husband at some point, and they knew that it wasn't what they knew. And so thankfully, my kids were in a safe haven. They were protected, and I'll never be able to tell them how much that meant and how grateful I was for that.
Do you believe it's an accurate description when legacy media refers to people who support Ammon and your family as, quote, followers?
No, I don't. I think that's a spin on words. I think that they use those words to get money, to get views, to get, you know, people are not, they support him because, and anybody that is in any kind of a relationship, whether it's a friendship or a marriage or whatever it is, you're never going to agree 100% on everything. Even me and my husband don't agree on everything. But the followers is like he's a leader. That's the narrative, right? They want everybody to think he's this leader, and there's all these followers. Well, there's been lots of times where people are like, I'll be by your side. I don't 100% agree with you, but I want to make sure you're okay, and your kids are okay, and your wife is okay. And so the followers, I think, is a narrative that they are trying to spin on, trying to make him look like, to position him to be a leader.
Okay. Ammon has been incarcerated a few times for disputes with the government. How do you and the children cope when conflict is happening between your husband and the government?
So that's really hard, but we band together, and I try to be the first person to tell them so that they don't hear it from other people, friends, community leaders. I don't want it to be hearsay. But we band together, we usually pray, and we say, you know, we put our trust and our faith in God, and the protection of Ammon is, you know, that he has it. And then we just, usually it's a couple days that we're just completely out of sorts. Most of the time I don't let my kids go do their things because being together is way more important than fulfilling that commitment at that time, because family first. And so it does affect our family, but I had a friend say that to me once, like, what, is it worth it? And I said, well, the natural man in us will tell you that it's not, because we want comfort, we want peace, we want to live in our little bubble. But if God asks you to do something, are you going to tell him no? And I haven't been told to do those things, but I've been told to support my husband in those things. And usually it's for good purposes. It's to help somebody. And if there's something malicious about it, or he wants gain for himself, he's never, listen, these situations bring us so much pain and so much, I mean, there's no gain in it at all. Like notoriety, no, that doesn't matter. It's all out the window. So I support him, but it's hard. It is hard for our family.
So with the family dynamic changing, are there different duties that children have to pick up when Ammon is incarcerated?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, I saw my kids step up. It's gonna make me a little bit emotional. I saw why families are so important, and why raising your kids a certain way pays off. When my husband first went to jail, my 12-year-old boy, we had to sell a lot of things to pay for lawyer visits and stuff, and I didn't care about any of that. Getting our husband home was more important than anything, and our dad. So we had a truck that wasn't running, and my 12-year-old son is really good and gifted in mechanics and stuff because Ammon's taught him his whole life. And he was able to fix the truck, and we actually had it sold, and then it ended up being that we didn't need to sell it. Like, God came full circle in that. Maybe as a sacrifice, we were willing to give our earthly possessions to have our dad and husband home. So it was just amazing to watch him and all my daughter reassuring me that everything's going to be okay and dad's coming home. You know, we just lean on each other, and we have this, it's created a bond that no other experience would have created. And I wouldn't say that I don't want to go through it again, but I'm grateful for what it gave us.
Okay. There's currently a warrant out for Ammon's arrest. Judge Lynn Norton issued the warrant based on contempt for not following her gag orders in the civil case of St. Luke's versus Ammon Bundy and People's Rights Network. Tell us about when the Gem County Sheriff deputies came to the door to arrest your husband.
Oh my gosh. I was absolutely terrified. We have a son that's on a mission right now, a religious mission, and he'll be gone for 2 years, but he can call home every Monday. And so we were talking to him, and I had my son, my little boy that I hadn't taken to school yet. He was upset, and I didn't know why. And I don't want to go to school, Mom, and he loves the little co-op school that we have. So it was strange. And then I'm talking to my son, and then all of a sudden we see the sheriff pull up, and they were pounding on our doors, and went every single door and every single window, so loud, so much that I was surprised that the doors didn't open. And we were terrified. I was absolutely terrified. I gathered my children, and we went into my room, and I just sat there, and we prayed and we prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed for protection and for safety. And they were coming for, it wasn't just like a little knock, knock, knock. It was, they were pounding on the doors and yelling. I don't even know what they were yelling. I just know that I was scared. And my son was like, Mom, don't get off the phone with me. I can't know that something happened to you. And so it was scary. My poor kids. We were all crying. It was scary.
Now, did one of your children answer the door?
So my daughter, nobody answered the door, but my daughter was downstairs. My oldest daughter that's home, she's 14, was downstairs, and she was in her room. And so she didn't know anything that was going on. And I feel really bad because it was just like, hurry and gather the kids and go into your room. Like, I didn't have much time to think, because I just thought, oh, this is going to be a massacre. I'm not being dramatic about it. We know it's happened before, and they want Ammon's head on a platter. And so, and to take the women and children might be even more for them. They're very evil and wicked. And my poor daughter hears the banging, and so she comes up the stairs, and they saw her from our downstairs. It's just a glass sliding window. And so they saw her, and they said, is your dad home? And she's like, I don't know. I don't think so. She hadn't been up. So she didn't know. And then she comes up, and she's like, Mom, what's going on? And I'm like, get in here. And she's like, they already saw me. And so we didn't answer the door, but they did ask her if he was home through the door.
How are your children dealing with this particular situation?
Every morning they're like, what does today look like? And we're just still praying for relief. We don't know. Ammon's got some things that he's working on in the courts, and we just have to pray that our sheriff, who doesn't really know his role and didn't really know what he committed to when he took the oath. I don't think he knew. I do feel a little bit sorry for him, but he came guns blazing without knowing what was really going on because of the pressure that was putting on him. So we just every day I'm just like, okay, we're going to do our things, you know, and just try to live as normal of a life as I can, not just shut down. You know, my at first I feel like I want to just shut down. I just want to go, okay, nothing of the world matters. But with kids, consistency is very healthy for their mental and for everything else. They still need to be socially involved in all their stuff. So we know that God's in charge, and I will still be running my kids to all their stuff.
So has it affected their schoolwork and their behavior?
So the first day they didn't want to go. My son didn't want to go, and I have my other kids homeschooled through a virtual program, and yes, it has affected their school. I think we all have lots of nerves going on, and so we're like, can't really focus on what matters at hand. Like I had a list a mile long of stuff I needed to get done this week, but now it's like, I don't know how important that really was. So my kids are like, and I'm like trying to get them to stay on, you know, at least do your reading and your math and at least get through that. And so it has affected it.
So why not just take the children and leave the property? That particular question has been posed to me by a few different women. And so I think that that's definitely a question that the people of Idaho might be asking.
I think that's a very fair question to ask. And I think it is, I'm glad that you asked me that question. Many have asked me that. My first reaction is to do that. But that's not what I committed to when I decided to get married, through good and bad. You know, and if I felt like if we didn't have all these people here, our friends, to provide, you know, witnesses and safety, kind of a safety net, I probably would. But God provided people, and so I stand by my side. I'm not going to abandon him. We've been abandoned in the last 10 years by a lot of people who we thought were really, really good friends because they didn't want it to look bad on their image being friends with us. So I'm not going to abandon him, just like everyone else in his life has. And maybe that's where we have to come to, where nobody else matters but God. But then God works through others. And so I've stayed here. I think if it was going to be really dangerous, then God would put on our hearts for all of us to leave. That it would be very unsafe. But for some reason we don't feel like we should. And I can't answer the reasons of that, of the why. But so we just trust in that and we stay and live our life, try to live a normalcy life. The kids has a lot to do with it. Like I said, consistency.
Do you have a message to law enforcement?
Ooh, that's tricky. We have friends that are police officers that we have known for years, and they're good people. And I do believe that there is a lot of good police officers out there. It's just the few that take the power and it's out of control. And so my message, I guess, is just remember what you took an oath to fighting, you know, crime, upholding the Constitution. And if you're not sure what that means, there's lots of people that could do classes and educate, especially the sheriff. So I hope that you would consider, if you have wives and children, that someday this could be you. And you think it would never be you. I never thought that I'd be 20 years later in this situation. You never think that you're ever, because we did everything by the book. We tried to be the best people we could be by the book, and just always helping people, but we're put in this situation. So don't ever think that it's not ever going to happen to you. So I guess that's my message, just like to protect, just not to protect you, but to protect all of us.
And do you have a message for the people that will watch this interview?
I feel like if you believe in something that's worth standing for, that you shouldn't cower down, especially if it means helping somebody. This whole thing stemmed because my husband helped get our friends back, their baby back. And I mean, so if somebody asks you for help, are you going to say no? Especially when it has to do with the baby, you know? Jesus says, suffer the little children that they may come unto me. Children are his most prized thing. I mean, they rely on us adults to help them get through everything in life. They can't do it themselves. We advocate for them. So if there's something that's put on your heart, do it. And there will be many blessings that come with it. But it might come with a lot of uncomfortableness. Also, you'll find out who your friends are.
Mm-hmm. So as to that, with the friends, you talked about losing some relationships. So have you lost some of the closest relationships in your life? Some of the closest friendships?
Yeah. When everything went down in Nevada, that's when I first saw it. And I was very naive. We had been friends with some of these people for over 10 years. Mm-hmm. And they abandoned us like that. Mm-hmm. And it was really hard because we had been through first being married and having children and leaning on each other and watching each other's kids. And I mean, if anyone knew us, they did. We had served in church callings together, been through hard things as wards and stakes together, and mm-hmm. and we all leaned on each other. And then something like this happens, and image matters more than anything. But mm-hmm. I'm just doing my job, or just for right now, I'm going to take a distance from you guys. Mm-hmm. So that was really hard and very heartbreaking for me. But it's happened more and more and often, more and more often, and I just kind of become a little bit like, I don't know really who I could trust, mm-hmm. and God ends up showing me who those people are.
Mm-hmm. I've heard from different people that this case from St. Luke's and CPS, that if Ammon and Diego are not successful in pushing back this situation in this case, that ultimately this can happen to anyone at that point.
They are letting the courts provide injustice situations. They have these millionaires and billionaires. I believe, this is Lisa's opinion, they have so much money that they're like, well, we'll win by money. You know, we will put so much pressure on that they just cannot handle it, that they cave and they give it in. And I mean, if we don't hold up this, then this is going to happen more and more and more. I mean, before all of this happened, we had people coming to us, talking to us about situations that had happened with them in St. Luke's mm-hmm. way before this happened. And they were given gag orders, mm-hmm. you know, so they used the courts to win their narrative, and it's working so mm-hmm. far. But the people, we have to get together. And a lot of people are afraid to share their messages attached with their names because they're afraid they're going to come back mm-hmm. into retaliation, mm-hmm. which they will. So you are 100% right, or the people that believe that. I think that if we don't stand on this and they just let this happen, it's just going to happen more and more mm-hmm. and more. And I mean, people go to hospitals and doctors and nurses trusting their professional, mm-hmm. you know, the things that they had learned and their mm-hmm. experiences to get opinions and help, usually with something medical. And then this comes back because it didn't go the right way. Mm-hmm. And it's wrong. The courts are being used completely unjust. Well, I actually have a couple of things on my mind. Some of the things that most people won't know is the 2 hours that St. Luke's is claiming that they had to shut down the emergency services due to my husband protesting. I would love for them to find out where my husband was during those 2 hours, because he was not at the hospital. In fact, he was in a courtroom face to face with a judge during those 2 hours, those exact 2 hours. So that's a blatant lie that everybody has bought into. And how does $21 million turn into damages of 2 hours? Explain that to me. There's more going on in the hospital than they're saying is going on. If that's the truth, I don't think it's the truth. And all these people, they donate because they think they're donating to something good. I think that, I hate to say this, but I would second guess those donations right now. You are paying for a lawsuit that's ridiculous. The donators are paying for a lawsuit that's ridiculous. I also want to tell everybody that has come, thank you for coming. Thank you for caring about your neighbor. Thank you for protecting our family, me and my children and my husband. Thank you. God placed it on their hearts, and those that could come did, and I'm grateful for that. And those that can't come, I know that you're doing your part. At the end of the day, I just pray that I just ask that you guys pray for the sheriff, pray for God's will to be done. We don't know what that is, but we just have to have faith, and hopefully by all of us coming together, we can bang on heaven's door and we can see miracles.